Hello, everyone from Chelsea Fan TV. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to be going through all of the latest Chelsea news. We're going to speak briefly about Arsenal, just touch on it. We're going to talk about the Leeds game as well as catching up on all of the latest Chelsea news at the moment. But before we start, I've just got to give a massive shout out to our sponsors, IP Vanish. Guys, if you don't have a VPN, you know that VPN is becoming more and more important as each day goes on, especially in the UK. There's a lot of games that we can't watch with the 3 o'clock kickoffs, and that's why VPN is very useful, because if there is a 3 o'clock kickoff, then you can't actually watch the games in the UK. Not to mention that there's a lot of other games that aren't televised either. So if you want to get IP Vanish, there is a QR code on screen as well as a link in the description. You can get up to 83% off. So check it out. There is a link below. You can also scan a QR code, as I mentioned earlier. Anyway, Charlie, how's things, mate?
Yeah, all good, mate. All good. We've had a good month, unbeaten in November, and now we head into the old famous December period where Chelsea teams in the past have kind of fallen away. But no, mate, I'm feeling good. I'm excited. Looking forward to the games coming up, and yeah, things seem to be pretty positive surrounding Chelsea, which makes a big change always.
Yeah, I think it's one of those periods where we're optimistic, but at the same time we sort of have in the back of our heads, we know that December's a tough month. But I have faith. I do have confidence. It's similar to halftime at Arsenal, mate. You know, you're down to 10 men and you think, oh, God, you know, we haven't made life easy for ourselves here. But at the same time, I don't know what it is, man. There's something different this year. There's something different. I wouldn't have felt like this last year. I wouldn't have felt like this the season before. If we would have gone down to 10 men, I thought I'd probably end up capitulating. But it seems like not only do we have a confidence in terms of playing a certain brand of football, which I think we've adapted slightly as well. We can speak about that. But also I feel like we now have this ability to be able to get points on the board, even if it doesn't necessarily look great. And I think that puts us in a much more comfortable spot, knowing that just as a fan base, we feel a little bit more confident. Like, imagine we get a red card last season, mate, or whatever it is, or the season before. I think the stadium gets a little bit toxic. And that's not to criticize the fans or anything like that, but it's like you get so close to achieving something or putting yourself in the fold for the title, and then for whatever reason we shoot ourselves in the foot. And I think we really did a good job in terms of getting that goal at the beginning of the second half, and even holding on for a point. Like, I spoke with you after, Charlie, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but obviously you were disappointed not to get the win. But at the same time, you can be really proud of the achievement of getting a draw with 10 men for most of the game.
Yeah, bro. You talk about like not winning that game last season, bro. Even earlier this season, you know, we went down to 10 men twice, and the reaction from Maresca was a very negative one in those games. You know, taking off basically all our attackers, almost sort of waving the white flag, and you know, we just sat in and invited a load of pressure onto ourselves, and eventually we caved in both of those matches. And so it was really refreshing to see in this game against a better level of opposition than a Brighton and a Man United that he's learned from that. He said he would learn from that in previous press conferences, and he did. You know, the red card happens to Caicedo. You lose your best player. You're sort of thinking, oh God, he's now going to sacrifice an attacker, and we're going to go defensive. Yeah. And you know, but he didn't, and he stuck with the game plan. Made no system changes in terms of an attacker off extra defender on or whatever, and we got the rewards for that. So that for me was a real positive to see that he's actually learned from that, and that we can actually take the game to sides despite being a man down. Look, it's not always going to work every time, but you know, we can show that we can take the game to a side when we're a man down, and you don't need to go ultra defensive. If you wanted to do that last 5-10 minutes, fair enough, but you don't need to do that straight away. So that for me was a real positive to see. I think the only thing that really, I mean, obviously you said a red card cost us the win, but I think also I think we still lack a bit of quality in the final third. Now, Palmer coming back into the fold for these upcoming games, that should, when he gets up to full fitness, give us that extra bit of quality. But even with him, I still feel those around him, there's just not enough star quality. Esteval, obviously, we know how good he is, but the likes of your Garnacho, your Gittins, and even Pedro Neto to a certain extent. I know these guys have contributed with sort of GA this season, but I don't think at this point in time they've got that in their game to deliver that on a consistent basis. And that's what I think is going to be the main difference between us, sustaining a challenge and not, along with obviously the centre-back pairing as well. Although, in fairness, we have improved a lot defensively over the last month.
Yeah, I agree in terms of, GA from especially that left-hand side. But I suppose this is the thing, though. I mean, Maresca said it last season. He said it again. He doesn't want one player to contribute with all the GA. Basically, he's not looking for a Palmer season from anyone. I mean, we're not going to shy away from it. It'd be very nice, but he wants the goals to be spread out. And I think he's spot on when he says that. To be fair, especially the fact that. And this isn't just GA either. This is just people doing their job on the pitch. I mean, let's talk about Reece James, and then we can touch on the strikers as well, because I can't believe what he was able to do in the midfield. First of all, the fact that he was in the midfield was, I don't think anyone really doubts him in the midfield anymore. That's not really.
But it wasn't a surprise though either, because
it wasn't.
Because we've seen big games, right? Look, people talk about Andre Santos, and he was very good against Burnley and was very good in that second half against Barcelona. But I think when you look at all the big games that there's been under Maresca, and I know that obviously Reece, the reason why you've got, if Lavia's fit and if Santos is perhaps a little bit more trusted, then we don't see that in midfield, Reece. There's not a need for it, but obviously Santos is probably not fully trusted right now, and Lavia, unfortunately, we don't really know when he's next going to kick a football. But that's the tried and tested big game setup. It really is. We did it against PSG, did it away at Bayern. We've done it, against Liverpool. I know it was Gusto in there that time, but they kind of switched around. We've done all the big games. We do it. That's the tried and tested big game setup. And Reece James is apt, mate, to be that good in two totally different positions is incredible. It really is. It's not like right back and midfield are similar positions. And all the talk was about, Caicedo and Rice pre-game, and yet there were £300 million midfielders on the pitch, and the best one was a right back who cost nothing. I mean, it's quite mad when you think about it that way. But how long have we, prayed for times like this where Reece is just fit, didn't have to worry about him getting injured, and he's just showing how good he is. There were times where I think myself, you probably as well, a lot of Chelsea fans doubted a little bit whether Reece could, whether we'd ever get back to seeing the Reece James of old, that we saw in Champions League winning campaigns. And no, he's not that same right wing back under Tuchel that was bombing up and down the pitch, but he's reinvented himself a little bit, and he's just as effective and just as influential, even if he's not bombing up and down the pitch. So, yeah, look, I think Maresca deserves a lot of credit for the way that he's been managed. Reece has been injury-free for over a year now, which is, quite incredible, really. Not something we've been able to say too often. And to perform to the level that he performs at, the football IQ, just everything he's got to his game. He is one of the best footballers in the world. He really is in terms of total package. So, look, fair play to him. And, with the injury issues we've had, obviously Noah Sugu and Lavia's problems, and while Santos is kind of getting up to full speed, I mean, it's not a bad option to have, is it?
No, it's not a bad option at all. I mean, if you look at the Arsenal game by stats, 11 out of 12 duels won, 4 fouls won, 4 crosses, 2 chances created. He got an assist as well, and
he whipped the corner, and
just how influential he was throughout the game. And half of Arsenal's yellow cards stemmed from fouls on Reece James as well. Like, I feel like he was really driving us forward. And the fact that Caicedo got sent off, like we've said it in a number of games, not so much him getting sent off, just if he gets injured, maybe we've said it like that. But I mean, he still wasn't on the pitch. We always say it in the stadium, we're screwed if Caicedo comes off. Like, that's just what people say because he's so important, he's so influential. So to make up for that in terms of not just off the ball covering the defensive side of things, which I think James was brilliant at. I mean, winning his duels, I mean, that says enough there. But in terms of how influential he was when we were on the break, driving forward, not scared to try and make things happen, even though we left ourselves a little bit more open and just taking a few more risks. I mean, this is not just about with the ball, child. This is about physically as well, risking an injury. Because if he does something a little bit, I don't really know how to explain it, but well, you do sports, child. Like, you know your body, mate. I mean, I've had a bad knee, for example, and I know that if I run too much in a certain way, I risk hurting my knee again. And I think James probably has had a problem with his knee. He's had a few problems, hamstring, whatever it is. Like, he didn't pay any attention to that. He just drove forward, and I think that's what I respect the most, is the fact that he put his body on the line. I think that the mistake though will be if Maresca keeps starting him, and and then that would be a huge issue. I don't want to see him starting against Leeds, mate.
No, I think he's already said as much. He was asked after the Arsenal game, can Reece play another 90 minutes, in regards to the Leeds game? And he said no. So Reece will be in the squad, I'd imagine, but he won't start. He'll be on the bench, or we might see a similar situation to Burnley where he does start, but it's pre-agreed that he only plays 45 minutes. But Reece won't play 90 minutes on against Leeds on Wednesday night. So look, I don't think we can question the way that Maresca's managed Reece James. It's been perfect, and we're getting the rewards for it. So whatever decisions he takes with Reece, those have got to be trusted, because he's earned the right to be trusted with the way that he's managed him.
Yeah, I think another player that's, for me, honestly, I'll be honest, I think a lot of people owe this man an apology. Robert Sanchez, like another player. Maresca said it himself, by the way. It's not my words. He said it was a special performance from Robert Sanchez, and I don't know if I'd say special. I mean, special almost implies that it was iconic, but I mean, it was a very good performance.
It was good, yeah, he was good.
I'd consider the Club World Cup final to be iconic. I don't think we quite reached those heights, but Sanchez for me is really building up a genuine trust in the fan base, not just in terms of his saves, because I mean, if you remember the last Arsenal game, we conceded that near post Martinelli goal. I mean, we didn't have any of that this time, but on the ball as well, mate. Like, we were having this chat last night, and the fact is that under Maresca last season, he wasn't given the option to go long. And so you're able to blame the manager in a way for, some of the silly things that Sanchez did, even though you knew that he had his moments anyway, because that happened under Poch. Now he's been given a license to go forward. And, if there's no options, just get it up the pitch. I think it's a testament to the manager adapting, and also Sanchez just having some common sense in order to be able to carry out those instructions. Because under Poch, he was given the option as well, but there was still a lot of mistakes that happened. And I think that this is also the structure. I'm sure they've probably practiced this a lot as well. It looks like we're well drilled. It looks like we've practiced. It looks like we've finally, hopefully, used up all of those bad games, and now we're going to have our good run. I mean, it's a real dip, and this is a testament to anyone that's been patient enough to actually deal with Sanchez and not be as critical as fans like me and you, and I mean, pretty much every vast
majority. I think it's the vast majority of the fan. I don't think you'll find many, if any, Chelsea fans that have believed in Sanchez from the moment he arrived at the club until this point now. I just don't. If there are some, fair play, but I'm not sure if I'd believe them, to be perfectly honest. Because from what we've seen over the time that he's been here, it's been very difficult to have faith in him with the mistakes that he's had been making. But where we've been highly critical, you also have to give huge praise for the way that he's turned things around this season. Red card aside against Man United, since the Club World Cup, he's actually been very, very good. His shot stopping, I've never had an issue with his shot stopping. He's always been a very good shot stopper. Made two good saves in that Arsenal game, the one in the second half from, I can't remember, it might have been Martinelli, and then the first half, the Bukayo Saka one. Made two very good saves. I've never had an issue with his shot stopping. My issue has been his kind of concentration levels and his distribution. And he seems to be doing better on both of those things. He's now also commanding the box very, very well. He seems to be able to come and, claim crosses, corners and whatnot, very comfortably. And fair play to him. He's been brilliant pretty much all season, as I said, bar the incident at Old Trafford aside. So look, long may that continue. But if I'm being brutally honest, I need to see this kind of form that we've seen for these first sort of 13 games of the season. I need that sort of form over the course of a whole season until I'm fully convinced that this guy is a top goalkeeper. He's playing very well right now, and he's massively improved, and he deserves huge praise for that. And a lot of us are being proven wrong, which I'm more than happy to be proven wrong about players. Actually, I want to be proven wrong about players that I don't think are good enough. That's what you want as a fan. You want to be shown to be wrong. But I still believe deep down, I'm sure a lot of Chelsea fans think this as well, that I still don't believe he's a title-winning goalkeeper or a Champions League winning goalkeeper. If you have an opportunity to go and get a top quality goalkeeper, then I still think that's something that we should be looking to do.
See, I almost disagree slightly on the last point. I think that we could win a Champions League with Robert Sanchez. I think he's shown that with the club.
I mean, the Premier League.
But with the Premier League, I think you make a fair point. But I have seen enough in a short period that tells me that if he switches on and focuses and concentrates, because that's half the battle now, isn't it? Especially as a keeper, I think a lot of goalkeepers say that is the most challenging part of the game, is actually not being involved in it half the time. Yeah,
exactly. You could do nothing for like 25 minutes, and then you suddenly have to be called into action to pull off a match-winning save potentially, or you could have nothing to do, and there's one opportunity, and you mess up in the game. And it's not like other positions where if you make a mistake, you might get another chance, or it's not that costly. You make a mistake in goal, and the chances are you basically cost your team a goal, or you cost your team points. Those are the outcomes, which are pretty difficult to come back from.
I think if I looked at Sanchez and I compared him to some of the keepers we have, his catching ability reminds me of Courtois in terms of his ability to claim crosses. I think that in terms of his elasticity, yeah, I think he's is that the right word, Charlie?
Well, carry on with what you're describing, and I'll tell you if it's the right
word. like when a keeper's able to get down and like he's not stiff,
he's
very loose,
his reflexes
moves. And I find that's a very unique trait in a lot of goalkeepers.
Yeah, I reckon his reflexes. Yeah.
No, but I'm not just talking about reflex. I'm talking about the way he's able to, like, if he's going in one direction and then he has to move to the other one.
So he's agile, his agility.
Very agile. No, but elasticity is also part. Like, he's just able to move in a way that
quite nimble. He can get down quick. Yeah.
But he's a tall guy as well. Like a lot of the time, you'll find when someone's really, really tall, they're not able to move the same way someone that's 6'2" can as if they're 6'5" or whatever. Like it does make a difference.
Where do you think he, as a goalkeeper right now in the Premier League on current form, right? Where do you think he ranks? Because if you look at the keepers, right, there's obviously if you're looking at the top goalkeepers in the league, Donnarumma, Alisson, David Raya, maybe that's it.
I would put him in.
I think.
Who did you say second? Who's the second?
I'm just listing who
you
I
said
think.
Donnarumma, David Raya, and who else?
Well, Alisson as well. I mean, that wasn't necessarily the order. I'm just going through top keepers in the league. And
I think that Sanchez is definitely a top 4 keeper. No doubt.
I would say right now, like he's.
I mean, the thing is, Charlie, as well, mate. We've already achieved top 4 and won 2 trophies with Sanchez. In fairness, Jorgensen played the Conference League final, so maybe that doesn't count.
Well, Jorgensen played pretty much all the Conference League, but yeah.
But we're very capable of getting top 4 with Sanchez. So if you're improving everything around him, then that says to me that we're able to compete for a title with Robert Sanchez. Not win it, but compete for it. I think his shot stopping is very good. I think his distribution has been great recently. I feel like he's made me feel very comfortable as a fan. You know, I still find it a little bit disingenuous when people say that they feel anxious when he has the ball at the moment.
No, not anymore. Why? You 100% used to, for sure. Yeah, but this season since United, no, I haven't worried about. I think that's the biggest compliment you can give him is that. Most fans now aren't worried about Sanchez going into games, whereas in previous seasons, every game you go into, you've been worried about what Sanchez might do. Now, that isn't really now for me, and I think a lot of fans, that now isn't a problem.
Yeah, I think so. So since United, really, that's when we've been because you got United. But apart from that, so October, November, very happy, and obviously we're going into December now.
Very good, mate. He's been very good. So fair play to him.
I mean, when I really try and take my emotional hat off, even though we're right in terms of the compliments we're giving him, I do think 2 months it's not a very long time.
No, it's not a long time. No, it's not.
So yeah, you're right. We do need to see it for longer. But it's like Fofana, it's like Lavi. It's like if these guys get injured again, then how long are you going to continue to be patient with players like that? I think it's like that with Robert Sanchez, just in a different way, more performance based. But speaking of which, like obviously Fofana again, I thought he was fantastic. For me, like Fofana and Chalobah this season, that has to be our baseline.
Well, I think it is, mate. I mean, how many times have we spoken on various different things where, like, Maresca needs to pick a partnership and stick with it, because the constant there was no surprise that a lot of the errors and stuff we were making and a lot of the goals we were conceding earlier in the season was because we were constantly chopping and changing the centre-back pairing. Now that it's been more settled, this month, November, it's been pretty much Chalobah and Fofana every game bar Burnley. And we've conceded, 1 goal in 4 league matches last month in November. We beat Tottenham 1-0 at the start of the month. We beat Wolves 3-0. We beat Burnley 2-0. And then we obviously drew 1-1 with us. So we conceded 1 goal in 4 Premier League games in November, which is pretty good. And 3 of those games, Chalobah and Fofana played. So look, just on Fofana first, I've always spoken about how good this guy is. And, that's why when players have injury records like Reece has had in the past, like Fofana has had, like Lavia has had, because these players are so good, you have for me personally, I have a bit more leeway and a bit more patience with it because of how good they are when they are available. Look, if Fofana or these guys were bang average, you would just be done with it. But he's not, and you notice how there's no coincidence how he's come back in, and suddenly we're so much better defensively. The fact that he's not the tallest, but he's very good in the air. He's quick. He's great at bringing the ball out from the back. He's aggressive, defends on the front foot, and for me, there's also no coincidence that since playing alongside Fofana, Chalobah has looked much, much better as well. And I think he deserves an awful lot of praise because he had a bit of a rocky start to the season. He made some errors and he was struggling a little bit. But once again, as he has done consistently over the time that he's been at Chelsea, he is proving the doubters wrong again and again and again. And I'm really happy for him. He's put in some brilliant performances over the last month or so, and he deserves praise for that. But I think it's helped him as well, having a settled partner alongside him.
The way I describe Chalobah, by the way, I'm a huge fan of Chalobah. I'm also a huge fan of Tosin. I don't think Tosin's a better defender than Chalobah. I think Chalobah's better. But I like both of them. I like a lot of our defenders, to be honest with you. So, I mean, if the question was ever who do you have to sell, because I feel like that's been one of the debates.
Well, it's Tosin, isn't it?
Well, I'd probably be safe and just go to Disasi, but that's probably
I don't really count Disasi as a Chelsea player anymore.
I mean, if you're looking for pure profit, then you can't deny that Tosin.
I mean, if Tosin wants to stay, if Tosin wants to stay, then we could offer him a non-playing role as Palmer's best mate on a 5-year deal.
There you go.
Keep the vibes up. Yeah.
Mate, Uncle Tosin, they call him Unc for a reason. You don't.
He can stay on in a non-playing
someone
role.
Your uncle if they're not actually your uncle if you don't love them. That's generally how it works. I mean, I don't know about you, but I mean, Rachel, my girlfriend, she works in a hospital and she's a midwife. And I think they've got all the Jamaican ladies up there, and they call them auntie.
Fair. Well, I think that's
what they do. They just call them auntie. Yeah. But I mean, you'd think that they like them. Otherwise, I don't know why you call them auntie in the first place. Like, it must mean that they're, I don't know, like someone that you can look up to.
Respected. Yeah,
you're respected. So it's the same in the dressing room with Tosin, presumably. Like, he's a popular figure in there. Sure. But I don't think I couldn't use personality as a way to criticize Fofana either. I think he's got a great personality. He's just so disciplined and he's got a real backbone to go through what he went through and then come out into a place where he is now. I mean, from where he was at Palace to then coming back and being respectful, I think it's fantastic. And I almost think it was beneficial that nobody else wanted to pay the money because, we wouldn't accept any less than 25 million, and nobody wanted to pay that. I say fair play. I mean, I think he's worth 40 million in the modern market.
I was still so surprised when Chelsea were trying to force him out a couple summers ago. He's sort of thinking it's a top level defender, 24. What he would have been 24, 25 at the time, and he had 4 years left on his contract or whatever, and English. And people are talking about 25 million. I was like, you joking? That's so disrespectful. That.
I'm not going to complain if nobody pays the money. We just keep him. But I think it's a bit of a slap in the face in terms of the way people rate him. But
mate, he's a 35, 40 million pound defender, easy.
100%. I mean, I consider Chalobah to be a level below sort of what you would consider to be your Fofanas in terms of, and by the way, like I know I've been critical for Fofana. Just to be very clear, I haven't changed my stance on Fofana. I still think we should sell him if he gets injured. That hasn't changed, especially if he's injured for the rest of the season. I think it's unforgivable. And people will say you can't control your body, but you don't see me shitting in the middle of a park, do you? So as far as I'm concerned, like you've got to keep it together. You've got to keep it together. I know it's a bit of a it's not the best reference, but like, do you know what I mean, Charlie? You have to have a bit. You've got to just take care of your body, man. And
I mean, but what I would say in regards to him,
things, mate, at the age of almost 40, like he wasn't getting injured. I understand everyone's different. I get it. If Maresca is able to get Reece James back playing, I think he can probably do the same.
Oh, I think he is doing that. I think that is happening right now. We're seeing it. Fofana, played back. Consecutive 90 minutes for him. I think he played 90 against Barcelona. He played 90 against Arsenal. The idea of Fofana playing 2 90-minute games in the space of sort of 4 days would have been unheard of, a few, season or two ago. So look, that already progress is being made there. Maresca left him out of the squad entirely for Burnley with the focus on these 2 games. He's played 90 minutes in both of them. He's come through them unscathed. He's put in good performances in both games. And I suspect that he'll be left out against Leeds and then he'll come back into the team against Bournemouth.
Yeah. I mean, our strongest lineup is definitely Cole and Fofana, but I think Chalobah is that level below. I also think that he's more than capable of being part of the title winning side. I mean, we saw that with Tuchel when we were still successful and winning, trophies that weren't the Premier League. Yeah. He rises or falls to the standard of players that he has around him. And you notice when he's got a good partner, he plays really well. Yeah. We've got a bad partner, he doesn't play well. So, I mean, that tells me that the partner's really, really important. And to be honest with you, this isn't even a new conversation. I mean, a lot of people have always rated Chalobah. I think there's a select few that maybe didn't like him as much. He's not a sexy player to watch in that sense. I don't think he's got one trait that stands out in terms of his passing or his ability to read the game, etc., his physicality. I think it all blends nicely into one, just makes him a solid Premier League defender. And I think pretty much any team, maybe bar, City or some, a team like that would be happy to have Chalobah in their squad and play him quite regularly. But I mean, that's my stance on that. Charlie, mate, just a quick one, drifting away from like the football side of things. What's your stance on commercially as well? Because we still haven't got a front of shirt sponsor. It looked like we were going to get a deal with Oracle. That hasn't happened yet. Yeah, it seems like it might not happen. We managed to get a deal with Coca-Cola. So now, if you come to Stamford Bridge, guys, you can drink Coke, you can drink Fanta, you can
probably pay £5 for it, or just get it for £1 in Fulham Broadway. I know which one I'd rather do.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I mean, no, it's a good deal, isn't it? I mean, people are saying, why don't Coca-Cola sponsor the front of shirts? I don't think they really do that.
At this point, mate, I'm taking anything on the front of the shirt, whatever. I mean, look, from a personal point of view, like, should fans be fussed about the fact there's not a front of shirt sponsor? I don't really know. It's not affecting our performance on the pitch. Yeah, it probably is affecting things off the pitch in terms of trying to plug a revenue gap, because top sponsorships are worth 50-60 million pounds a season on the shirt. And look, Chelsea have been announcing so many different partnerships. We've got a new sleeve sponsor, last month or whatever it was. There's this Coke partnership. There's been multiple other various different commercial partnerships that have been agreed, but for some reason we can't seem to agree a front of shirt sponsorship. And I think it does reflect really badly on the club that we're in a third consecutive season where we're coming up to Christmas now and there's no sponsor still. Now, I don't believe that's because they can't find one. They could absolutely get one if, like, gun to the head, you have to get a sponsor. They could do it. For me personally, I think very much like with deals we offer players and staff and whatnot, they're looking for a long-term deal with a sponsor, like a 5, 6, 7-year contract.
Oh, well, they love their long deals, mate.
Yeah,
and we've done it before with Samsung.
We have, but I don't think sponsors commit like that long-term in this day and age. Maybe I'm wrong, or maybe the people they're speaking to, they don't want to commit that many years. Maybe we're asking for too much money as well. Is £60 million too much to ask? I don't know. But I think it's probably a combination of the two right now, is that maybe we're asking for more money than the sponsors are prepared to pay. And maybe we're asking for them to commit to a number of years that they don't feel comfortable committing to. And that's kind of where I'm at with it. But the fact we've not got one is really poor. It reflects badly on the club. And I think it is embarrassing. You know, we thought we were going to get the Oracle stuff. There was a lot of news around that Oracle thing in the last international break. And then it subsequently transpired that, you know, I think Matt Law reported it, that a lot of the reporting around the Oracle stuff, a lot of people have kind of jumped the gun and got way too ahead of themselves. And it looks like he was proven right with that. Look, I'm not saying the Oracle thing won't happen or can't happen, but clearly the way that it was reported, people had got way too ahead of themselves in regards to how potentially close that was.
Yeah, I mean, we managed to get another, was it shirt sleeve?
We've got the sleeve sponsor.
FPT. They're paying 17.5 million a season.
It's a big chunk of cash for a sleeve sponsor. I think it's I think it's some sort of telecoms company in Southeast Asia or something. FPT, I think it's called.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. FPT. I mean, in terms of sleeve sponsor, we are one of the highest paid teams in the league. We are. I'm trying to see if I can find it. I don't have it off the top of my head, but like we're doing very well in terms of that side. But you're still missing out on an enormous amount of value there. I mean, obviously we've got the Bing X sponsorship, which is about 12 million a season with Bing X. Nike, 60 million a season. But there is a hole, you know, there is a hole. There's a hole. And if you're wondering in January, and this is more of a vague statement because I might be wrong and there might be cash in the bank to spend. But if you're wondering why we're not spending that 40 million, that 50 million on a player, well, if we had that sponsor, we'd have that extra revenue and we'd be able to invest it, hopefully. So, I mean, we're shooting ourselves in the foot. But the whole Oracle thing was strange as well, Charlie, because it wasn't a regular deal. It wasn't like, okay, you're going to sponsor us, you're going to pay us some money, we'll promote you. It was totally unique in the sense that it wasn't specific to football. It was actually a Clear Lake deal, and Chelsea were just being leveraged for Clear Lake and able to achieve other things. I think it was about Oracle accessing Clear Lake's database. Or their cloud servers or something like that. And then Clear Lake would give them access to Chelsea and then they would sponsor Chelsea. And it was sort of like this, you know, everybody sort of helping each other. I mean, a little bit dodgy to an extent in terms of loopholes, but I mean, you got to get creative in this day and age. They've made new rules about the finances in the Premier League as well. So you have to, I don't know if the threshold's been lowered. I think it has been lowered. So it's, you can spend even less than before, right? In terms of the revenue that you bring in.
I've not looked at. I haven't really looked into all that financial stuff. Gets well complicated. I just leave that.
It does get a bit tricky.
I just leave that to the smart people and trust them. That's it. I'm not gonna. But as a fan, for me, I'm not getting involved trying to be an accountant or any of that.
You just got to read it out, Charlie. I mean, that's as good as it gets.
Sign me the players. And if you break the rules, you break the rules, and we'll just take the punishment, whatever. Like I'm not trying to break these rules down and try and understand it. And if we do this, we spend this much money, or we can't do that. It's just like whatever. There's far more intelligent people than the average football fan who should be trusted with.
Hey, Charlie, you're on Sky every week, mate. You're not the average football fan.
Mate, I'm not talking about. Mate, I'm not talking
you're part
about.
Of the elite,
I'm not, mate. I'm not talking
level.
about. Yeah, but I'm not talking about finances and pretending I'm an accountant. That's where the game's gone, where fans are trying to pretend to be accountants and shit. It's like, let's just leave that. That's not for us to be worried about. That's for the smart people to deal with.
It's becoming very nerdy now, isn't it? Football. It is very nerdy.
Yeah, just yeah, it is. I mean, look, that side of it's always been there, but I just think it's far more prevalent now in the
Do you know the difference, Charlie? You know what I'd say the difference is? I'd say, and like this is no disrespect to anyone, because I would consider like Don, for example, to be like a bit of a football nerd, and that's not even a criticism. It just means you're very, very knowledgeable.
Yeah,
like
really, yeah.
You know a lot of the things that most fans just don't know. Like you look at things that other people don't look at, and you dive into maybe articles and things like that the average football fan wouldn't really care about. They just want to watch the game and go home.
Yeah.
And I think that you're getting a lot more of those fans going to games now as well. I think that's something that's changed. Whereas, what's his name? Warren, who we had on the day after show yesterday, like he said to me, he's like, Alex, I just go to the game for the atmosphere, mate. And if something happens, I'll look at the pitch, you know. And that's what I think it used to be like 25 years ago. I think that you had a lot of fans that were just there for the crack. Obviously, Matt, who's, you know, a regular on the channel. Unfortunately, he's not going to Chelsea much this season, but he'll be back next season, guys, to give you an update. You know, those are the kind of people that I think are really, you know, pleasant to have around the stadium, because they're the ones that create the energy. And when you're in the stadium, you don't want to talk about GA, you don't want to talk about stats, all this stuff. You just want to have a good time and feel like you're back in the team. And I think that is a fundamental change that I've seen, because I've been following Chelsea regularly since Conte's second season. I mean, that's when I started going to games regularly, and I've seen a difference from when I first started going then to now in terms of the types of fans that are going, and that were going before and the ones that are going now. It's not a criticism. I just want to be very clear. It's not a criticism, but it's just the type of people that go. It's very different now. And I think that's one of the reasons you get less atmosphere as well. Like, because you've got people that don't drink, you know, they just want to go and enjoy the football. And it's a little bit different now. Having said that, I've lived both sides and I enjoy both sides. Sometimes you want to appreciate the game for the atmosphere. Another game at times you just want to watch the football. So like I can appreciate both sides.
No, yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, yeah, the football, the way people like watch football is evolving as well. You know, like I don't think as many people, you know, going a few years back would have been as interested in so many aspects of the game as a lot of the more modern fans are now. I think the older generation perhaps don't you know, consume the game that way, and that's absolutely fine. If you just want to go and watch the game for what it is and then go home and have a chat about it, that's cool. No, absolutely no problem. People can watch football in whatever way they want to, but I think now you are getting, you know, a lot of maybe the younger generation of fan having a much more analytical viewpoint of the game and looking out for certain things and patterns of play and, you know, what players are doing off the ball and stuff. Whereas I think perhaps, I'm not saying that everyone in an old generation or everyone in a younger generation is doing these things or not doing them, but I think you're more likely with the older generation of fan. They just want to go and they just want to watch the game and enjoy it. They're not doing this analytical side of things, which is fine. You know, people watch football in whatever way they want. There's no right or wrong way to watch the game, but I think you are getting a lot more people watching it from an analytical point of view within the stadium as well.
Yeah. I think one thing that's not very analytical is the stadium at the moment. It seems like that's only going in one direction. We're not going to be building in Earl's Court.
Well, it doesn't look like it. I mean, they got one local council voted through the plans for that redevelopment. So they still need to get
Hammersmith and Fulham Council have
they
approved.
Still need to get.
They're waiting for Kensington.
Yeah. So they still need to look. That's not fully signed off yet, but they need obviously need approval from the other council, and then it's good to go. For me, if Earl's Court was a goer or is a goer, the fact that one council's voted through this multi-development plan and they're waiting for one more, if Chelsea thought they could get Earl's Court or thought there was a chance, surely they would have acted by now when you're seeing councils voting the other plans through. And so that for me looks like either Chelsea know that Earl's Court is not attainable, or we're trying to wait until the last possible minute to, well, I wouldn't know why we'd wait this long to try and overturn what's going on. To be honest, mate, I think ultimately we're just going to end up knocking down Stamford Bridge and playing a Wembley or a Twickenham for 3, 4, 5 years until it's rebuilt. There's no other option,
decision, mate. Which is the wrong decision.
Well,
but I fully understand why, and I'm not surprised. I mean, I had this conversation a year ago. It is all Clear Lake. It is all Clear Lake. The reason we're not getting this stadium, and I stand by that, and I will continue to say that, because they are private equity. Private equity do not care about long-term investments. Not like this. It's 10 years max, 10 years tops, and then they want to dip, mate. They want to leave. So if they invest in a new stadium, that will be with loans. They will borrow money, and then they'll have to pay interest off of that stadium, and that will be a cash deficit. That shows people who want to potentially buy the club that we're not making money at that point, because we're paying off the money that we borrowed to build the stadium. So when it comes to Clear Lake, they've got no interest in building a new stadium. They've got no interest.
They've got to do something to the stadium. That was part of the deal.
They weren't.
They'd have to redevelop the stadium, or they've got to build a new stadium. That was I'm pretty sure that was part of the deal with buying.
It won't be Clear Lake that do it. It will be Bowley. And Bowley, I believe if Bowley was the sole investor, mate.
Bowley would have built a new stadium, or he'd be much more. He would have
gone to Earls Court, and Hansi Viss as well. Like when I spoke with him, he agreed Earls Court's the best option.
The problem we've also got is though, we're not like sort of because of the unique location of the ground in London. It's not like the Emirates or Spurs where you can have that area of land that you can use to build a massive stadium. Like in and around Stamford Bridge, because of the area it is, there's next to no land where you can actually build something that big, which is why Earls Court, if we were going to move, Earls Court is legitimately the only place that Chelsea could build a new stadium. We can't build a new stadium anywhere else in the local area simply because the land is not there.
Also, and Abramovich had this when he was obviously trying to build the stadium, is you can't build up.
No, because he blocks a restricted view from somewhere.
From a cathedral, I think it is. And you're legally not allowed to block that view.
You've got to build down.
So that's why originally we were going to build down, and then we were still able to expand to 60,000, which I presume would be a similar idea now.
Yeah, I think you can get maybe, because they bought that Stoll site next to it. Maybe I think you could probably get on the current Stamford Bridge site building down. You're probably looking at 62, maybe 63.
If I'm being honest, Charlie, I don't think it's worth it. That's the God honest truth. But then if you said to me, Alex, would you rather have an extra 20,000 seats? Of course.
Yeah.
I'd rather have it.
I would agree with you that it's not worth it, purely on the premise that with the way that football's going, even if you go to 60k, 62, 63 or whatever, like you're basically saying now that you've just essentially kicked the problem 10 or 15, 20 years down the line, because Chelsea cannot stay at Stamford Bridge forever. But whether it's our generation or whatever generation of fan, you're kind of knocking down Stamford Bridge and rebuilding it and getting it to 60 odd K. That almost feels like you're putting just a plaster on a bit of a bigger wound. Like, you've got to, like, this was saying that Chelsea are just going to stay at 62k for the foreseeable future. Like, it's not. When you look at sort of Arsenal potentially looking to expand the Emirates, look at the Tottenham capacity. You look at what Old Trafford are looking to do. Bro, even look at, I don't know if you've seen the plans for Birmingham City's new stadium. It's going to be well over 60k.
This is the thing, right?
Like, and you sort of think, like, guys, come on. Like, we're a massive football club here. We've won everything there is to win in the game. And within the Premier League, we're not even in the top 10 biggest stadiums at the moment. That's poor.
No, it is poor. It is poor. And by the way, anyone taking the piss out of Birmingham Stadium as well, you look at what they have now and whether...
how can you take the piss out of Birmingham Stadium? Yeah, it's mad.
Or not. Like, it doesn't matter, because they're basically going to double their capacity. I mean, that is so impressive if they're able to pull that off. And that's also embarrassing for us. But then again, like the logistics, the cost.
But then again, as well, Birmingham different to London. There's more space to build and stuff. But the point is, they've managed to sort something out. Whereas we've essentially, in 3 years that the ownership have been here, there's basically been no progress on the stadium whatsoever. There's been nothing.
No, I mean, no progress. No
There
progress.
hasn't really been.
There's been no effort to make progress. I
Well,
mean,
it's been, well, I don't want to say there's been. I don't want to say
I'm just going off what Viz said. You know, he said that nobody is taking the lead on that project, and that tells me that nobody's interested in taking the lead on that project. I mean, we've flirted with the idea, but Charlie, I mean, you know it, right? I mean, if you talk about something, and then I talk about going to the gym all the time. You don't see me lifting weights. You don't see me on the treadmill. I can post whatever I want on Instagram about how I looked 2 years ago, but I've got to go in there now. And I think that we talk a lot about it, but nobody actually wants to make it happen. And again, that goes back to Clear Lake, what I said earlier. I stand by that point. We won't have a new stadium with Clear Lake. If we do, I'll be shocked. So I think that I think Bowley's plan is to buy out Clear Lake. I think that's what he wants. And I think that he just needs to generate the money to do it.
Do you remember when we heard all that stuff? Maybe I think it must have been last year in an international break about how Bowley and Egbali, had fallen out. They didn't like each other, and one of them, and they were looking to try and buy each other out. And then we literally for a year have heard absolutely nothing about it.
Well, I mean, I think more question marks happen when you're playing really badly, and the journalists are trying to figure out what to post.
Yeah, exactly. The ownership stuff only comes up when we're on a shit run.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, by the way, I still think that Bowley would happily buy out Clear Lake. And I think that Clear Lake are looking to be bought out. This is the thing. They're looking to be bought out, but it's got to be a very inflated price. And, it has to be profitable from their side. Otherwise, they wouldn't hold on to the club for however long. But yeah, we'll see what happens there. Interesting one, Charlie, as well. Simon Johnson, he's written that Chelsea have held a long-standing interest in Murillo. But he is considered at the starter level, so he's not on their radar. The focus is more on succession planning and players for the future. So basically, we like Murillo, but he is not considered to be a player that could potentially come in and replace Cole in future years, but direct competition, which is why we're not interested. I mean, that doesn't really make much sense.
Mate, what I ascertaining from that is that Chelsea aren't looking. If Chelsea are going to sign a centre back, they're not looking for a starting quality centre back. That's what that looks like to me. Is that they maybe trusting Colwell, trusting Fofana, Chalobah, or whatever, and that if they were looking to bring centre backs in, then it would be very much squad centre backs. Obviously, a lot can change between the start of December and January and next summer and whatnot. Loads can change, and it's obviously ever evolving in football. But just purely based on that report and what's being stated right now, for me, I'm taking that and looking at it as, look, we like Murillo, but we look at him as a starting quality centre back, and we obviously don't believe he's better than our current starters in Colwell and Fofana. So we're not prepared to pay that money on him to be a squad player. That's the way that I'm looking at it, and I find that, I don't know if I find that strange or a bit odd. That
is strange.
I'll be basically saying that, by the way, we're not looking for anyone to.
Sorry, you're too good. I'm not interested.
Well, but that's basically the way that it's looking. They're looking at Murillo. We like you, but actually, we don't think you're good enough to be a starter for us.
I mean, in terms
or they look at him as a starter, and we're not.
No, that's the point. They're looking at him as direct competition, and that's why we're not going to be going for him. That doesn't make any sense, Charlie.
I don't understand. I don't understand that at all.
By the way, if we bring in a player like Murillo, I not gladly, but I accept
he would
you sell a player like Tosin or a Badiashile, or no, I wouldn't accept selling Chalobah, but I would accept selling Tosin or Badiashile, definitely Disasi. So, I mean, that's the kind of caliber that you go, all right, that's a direct upgrade. That's going to be great competition in there. Also, if we were to have a player like Murillo in our squad, we would have never had the issue with Colwell getting injured in the first place, because we would have had a direct cover.
Yeah, it's mate, it's that wording is really odd. I really don't get that at all.
That's very strange, mate. Speaking of centre back as well, Disasi, he's begun training again with the first team recently, and he played for the under-21s against Reading in November, and this is to ensure that he's fully fit to make a move. I mean, it's a weird handling of the situation with Disasi. I mean, I have to be honest, I think it's really harsh. And the way that Maresca spoke about it, I don't know if you remember, he was speaking about Disasi in the bomb squad, and he was going, Disasi's doing well, this and that, blah blah blah. I have to admit that even me, I think the way we've treated Disasi is really poor. His attitude, he's never had an attitude problem for us. It's purely the fact that he's not a ball playing defender, and obviously he's not good enough to play on the right, especially when
I think it's difficult though when it's been made very clear to you as a player that you're not part of the plans. You need to find yourself a move, and you've had all summer to get yourself a move, and for whatever reasons, a move doesn't come off.
Well, he was very close to going to like 2 or 3 clubs, wasn't it? Wolves.
But he didn't want to go to those teams.
Well, then that's his fault. I mean, if you look at it like that, so maybe I have to backtrack on my point and go.
I mean, look, we don't know the ins and outs, but ultimately, you've had all summer to get a move, and if it's been made clear to you that you're not part of the plans at the club, you're not part of the plans at the club. You can't expect like, oh, by the way, because you didn't get a move, you're now back in the fold. You're now part of the plans again. It's not like, look, I get it. I understand the treatment side of things, but it's not like they've just cast him to a side or you're banned from the training ground. You can't do anything. You're training, you're provided with facilities, you're looked after. This is not like he's been neglected or whatever. Yes, it's a harsh way to be treated as a professional footballer, but top level sport's not charity.
Well, he's getting paid a lot of money. That's
you're getting paid a lot of money. You're training, you're being provided with facilities and whatnot. Like ultimately, that's the way it is, unfortunately, right now. And look, he couldn't get a move in the summer for whatever reasons, and he's now training with the first team occasionally. I think he's played sometimes for the under-21s, bit of match sharpness, and we try and move him on in January. It's unfortunate. You never want to see anyone have to be in those circumstances, but that's the way it goes at top level sports sometimes. When you're not wanted.
Do you think in January we get rid of more players than we bring in, like last season?
I can't. I'll be honest, mate. I can't see us bringing many players in at all in January. I really can't, unless like I hate this phrase, but unless there's a market opportunity presents itself that Chelsea think is too good to turn down. The only players coming in January, I think, will be similar signings to that centre back we signed. The 16-year-old from Ecuador who's coming in a couple of years' time. More signings like that potentially in January. I'd be very, very surprised unless there was a very good market opportunity, as I said, if any players came in to improve the first team squad.
I think Jorgensen potentially leaves.
But again, that's down to Chelsea, though. Like that.
No, I said potential, but if I had to throw names out there, I'd say Disasi.
Yeah, and maybe Sterling, but I'm not confident Sterling goes in January. But I mean, on Jorgensen quickly, like ultimately, decisions down to Chelsea. But Chelsea, if they let Jorgensen go, have got to bring another keeper in to maintain the depth. And I think that's going to be very difficult to find another keeper in January to come in as a backup or whatever.
Well, I mean, I forget the Slanina's part of the squad.
We can't be. If something happened to Sanchez or we do a bit of rotation, bro, we can't be having Slanina in goal.
I mean, we say that, but I wouldn't trust Jorgensen to cover.
Bro, the guy was on loan in League One. We can't be doing this. But like,
Jorgensen's been pretty poor, mate.
Yeah,
so I don't really know.
I agree. He's been poor. I agree he's been poor, but ultimately, like, the only way that Chelsea let Jorgensen go in January is if they've got another keeper lined up to come in. And I just think finding a keeper in January is very, very difficult.
Fair enough. Let's talk about Leeds briefly. Ellen Road. Obviously, last time we went there, we were on telly, Charlie, weren't we? I had my phone out. Classic. The one moment I'm on TV, my phone was up, and I was like, "Fuck's sake!" It's just typical, isn't it? And Jesse Marsh was loving life, mate. That's when they had.
Yeah, we got smashed 3-0 under Tuchel, didn't we?
Mendy had a shocker.
Yeah, and I think Koulibaly or Gallagher got sent off. I can't remember which one it was.
I don't think anyone got sent off.
No, I think Koulibaly got sent off.
Did he?
Yeah, mate. I'm going to check now.
Yeah, you check that. I can't remember. I can't remember anyone being sent off.
That 22-23.
It's just the last time we played Leeds in the league, mate. Like that would be a relatively easy game to find. But I will say this: it was the best atmosphere I've ever been to.
Oh, very good. Yeah, it was very good.
In England, to this day, number 1 atmosphere I've been to, Leeds. Number 2 atmosphere I've been to, probably Anfield when it's popping. Number 3 atmosphere I've been to, I would actually say Middlesbrough.
Yeah, mate.
Middlesbrough was a great atmosphere as well.
I just pulled it up now. We lost 3-0 and Koulibaly did get sent off.
Oh well, good memories. Try and wash the pain
great
away.
Memories, mate. Great memories.
Yeah, you would. What was it about the car? Yeah, we tried to get a car park space, and
oh, geez, mate. Do you want to hear the team that we had out that time?
Yeah, go on.
It was the Tuchel wing-back team. It was Mendy in goal, back three, Koulibaly, Silva, James, Cucurella and Loftus-Cheek as wing-backs, Gallagher, Jorginho, Mount, with a front two of Havertz and Sterling.
Yeah, the front two's not convincing at all. Loftus-Cheek at wing-back, not my favourite either. But apart from that, I mean, it's not bad. Although Gallagher was very poor under Tuchel.
Yeah, we got absolutely done, mate. We got smashed in that game.
I mean, Daniel Farke's under a lot of pressure at Leeds. Yeah. He definitely needs to win a game. A lot of fans are already saying he should be sacked. Mate, I'm a big believer, Charlie, in having your backs against the wall and making things happen, which is not good for Chelsea. But I'm a big believer in it, and I think that we need to really prepare for this one because Leeds, this rivalry stems back to the 70s, mate.
Yeah, I mean,
well, further back than that, probably.
We had Ethan Ampadu on the bench for us, and he's now obviously, I think he's played over 100 games for Leeds, and he's their captain. So, yeah, there we go. But yeah, no, bro, the rivalry is obviously historic for our generation of fans. I don't think it means as much, just because obviously we weren't around during.
It's like if we played Millwall, isn't it?
Yeah, I think there's still like a dislike between the two clubs, but I'd imagine that the dislike is probably more on the Leeds side than it is the Chelsea side. I don't think Chelsea look at Leeds as rivals like they would have done back in the day, because Leeds are obviously nowhere near as good as what they were during those times. However, Ellen Road's going to be a difficult place to go. They're fighting for their lives to try and stay in a division, get out the bottom three. Under the lights, atmosphere will be booming. And it's the sort of game where we're going to make a number of changes. And in a strange sort of way, this game and obviously Bournemouth at the weekend, I think these are tougher than Barcelona and Arsenal, purely because these are the smaller games away from home, intimidating or difficult atmospheres potentially. We're going to make a lot of changes, and that's where I could see maybe, we could have some issues potentially.
Yeah, no Fofana, no James, probably no Esteval starting in that game. I
don't think Neto starts this game either.
I would agree if he gets dropped. I wouldn't.
Maybe Cucurella don't start. Maybe we see Jarell Hato at left back for this one. Liam Delap, I think, will start up front. I suspect we'll see Gittins and Garnacho both start. Or Esteval only played 45. Maybe Esteval starts one side and Garnacho the other, or Gittins maybe plays. I think we'll see 5 or 6 changes, maybe even 7.
No, I agree with pretty much all of that.
Do you think he changes the whole centre back pairing? I think it's safe to assume Fofana's not playing, but do you think he sticks with Chalobah and then puts a Badiashile, a Josh, or a Tossin in, or do you think he changes both?
I think he keeps Chalobah in there. I think he keeps Chalobah and then gives him a new partner. I think Gusto starts. By the way, I think there's a good chance Cucurella starts as well.
Maybe. I think Badiashile plays this game. I think Badiashile plays. You shift Chalobah to right centre back and you play Badiashile at the left.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't have an issue with that. The midfield.
Well, Andre Santos will definitely play, and then it's going to have to
not
be
available either.
No, it'll have to be. Asugu's back in training, but I don't think he's not going to be available to play.
It's going to have to be Fernandez.
It'll have to be Enzo again. Yeah.
Who's in the 10?
Wow, that's a very good question. Does Buonanotte make a reappearance?
Oh God!
Or do we do this? Do we do Esteban?
I mean, this is why Buonanotte was brought in, mate.
When did Buonanotte last play? The guy's not even making squads at the moment. He hasn't made the matchday squad for like the last 3 or 4 games. I can't even tell you when he last played.
He played against Ajax and he played against
Wolves in the Carabao.
Oh yeah, and Wolves. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Wolves must have been the last game. And he was poor, mate. Poor against Wolves.
Yeah, bro. I don't even consider him a Chelsea player, but maybe it's Buonanotte. But I think one option could be maybe you play Esteval. Maybe you shift Esteval century, play him in the 10.
I mean, I'd rather start Buonanotte and have Esteval come off the bench. I'd feel more comfortable with that, to be fair. But I understand where you're coming from. I mean, in terms of just having a strong squad, obviously you start Esteval, but there's a part of me that goes, come on, guys. And some of the fans that go, like, they do this all the time. They're like, oh, we need to win this game. We need the strongest 11. Yeah, obviously we need that. But what do you think about the next few months after that if we don't have the players available? Then what?
And also the fact that literally from Barcelona to Arsenal, Maresca made one change to the team for those two games. Like there's going to be 5, 6, or 7 changes. If there's less than 5 changes, I'd be stunned.
That was just João Pedro, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was literally João Pedro coming in for Garnacho. That was the only change he made between those two games.
Fair. Yeah, who knows? I mean, I'm going to predict. I'll be honest with you, mate. I'll be honest. I'm going to predict a draw for Leeds. I'm going to predict a draw. This is me not knowing the lineup. So obviously lineup might come out and I might think different. But based on the fact that we could have heavy rotation.
Might lose and the lineup comes out.
But I mean, based on the fact that we're going to rotate heavily, a lot of key players aren't going to be involved. It's a Wednesday night. Leeds are up for it. Their backs are against the wall. They need points. I don't think we lose, but I think that this has got a draw written all over it. Especially the fact that we've been so good against Barcelona and Arsenal. I hate to be that guy. I think it would be typical for us to drop points against Leeds. I think it would be typical. And I don't think it would be surprising either. I think they're going to have a lot of energy. I think they're going to give 110%. And I think that with a weakened squad, we just won't have enough quality to finish our dinner, especially with the likes of Buonanotte in the squad. I mean, that just doesn't convince me whatsoever.
Well, bro, he's not even making the squad. That goes to show how he's viewed.
Yeah, but if he's... So do you think he'll start then?
No, mate, I've got
so
no
who'd you put
idea.
in the 10? I mean, you could put Enzo in the 10 and then have someone else in the midfield, but...
Well, who would you put in the midfield? There isn't... James is not... Unless you play James for a half in midfield and then you bring someone else off the bench to play... yeah, bro, I think we're going to... I think that there's 2 options for the 10. It's Esteval or Buonanotte comes back in and plays for the first time in about 4 or 5 games.
Palmer? Do you reckon he comes? Well, I reckon he comes.
Shit. Yeah, what are we talking about here? Maresca's like,
nah, but I don't want to start Palmer, mate. I think I still don't feel comfortable with Palmer starting, to be honest.
I think Palmer will probably be on the bench again, but he's ready. Maresca said he's ready to start, so we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, look, Palmer might start. If not, you're looking at maybe it's Buonanotte or he plays Esteval centrally.
Who do you risk more, Palmer or Esteval?
Well, Esteval's not a risk, is he? He played 45 minutes against.
I think they're both risks because Esteval's 18, mate.
So but he's good, so it doesn't really matter. Like that's the main thing is that he's good enough.
No, I know it's physical, Charlie. It's physical.
Yeah, sure, but like I think he's dealt with the physicality pretty well. Those are the options. You start Palmer in there, Esteval shifts inside, or Buonanotte comes in from the cold and he plays.
Okay, fair enough.
Unless he plays João Pedro and Delap.
Play them together.
Yeah.
I'm open to that. I'm definitely open to that.
Yeah, maybe you see that.
What's your score prediction, mate?
This is a really tricky one. And I don't want people to think, oh, they're doing this thing. They beat Barcelona, they played very well against Arsenal, or Chelsea are doing this thing where, they're not, they worry about the lesser games. But the reality is these are the sorts of games that we have struggled in. Like this for me, if we could win this Leeds game off the back on Arsenal and Barcelona, this is massive. I think we've got the quality to do it. I think it will be fairly low scoring. I think it could be a tense affair. I think it could be cagey. But I'm going to back us for a 2-1 win.
2-1 win.
But having said that, I also wouldn't be totally surprised if it ended up being 1-1 or something.
1-1 would be my prediction. And that's not me being pessimistic. That's just with a fully strength squad, I feel very confident. But I don't think we'll play a fully strengthened squad. I think we'll rotate heavily, and I think you got to look at Leeds as well. I think you have to look at their situation. And I mean, if they lose, I think there's a good chance he gets sacked. Daniel Farke. He's very close to getting sacked. He's 1 or 2 games away. I mean, that's the way it looks from the outside. But let us know what you think in the comments, guys. If you agree or disagree with anything we've said. If you guys want to make sure you catch up with all of the games as well, you will need a VPN. Check out IPVanish. There's a QR code on screen as well as a link in the description. You can get up to 83% off And big up to you, Charlie. Thanks so much for coming on, mate. Subscribe to Charlie's channel as well, The Blue Brother. And we will be back very, very soon.